All right, thanks. We can start, Curtis. Let's go ahead.
Welcome, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. Thank you for your patience. Today is July 13th, and we're happy to be here for the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Santa Clara. Chair Hendrickson is joining us today via Zoom, and he's asked me to take his place at least at this part, but he'll be with us on Zoom also, so he'll be the fifth member of the Planning Commission today. I'll be directing us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then opening comments. If you'll please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we bow our heads at this time to give thee thanks for the blessings that we have. We're indeed grateful for this community in which we live, for our neighbors and those that we associate with on a daily basis. We're grateful for the comfort, safety, and peace that we enjoy here in this community. At this time, as we open this public meeting, this Planning Commission meeting, we ask thee to be with us, to help us be able to express opinions, ideas, and do so in a reverent manner. We ask thee to be with those that are presenting tonight and that are on the agenda, that they'll also be able to express that which they've prepared. And again, we're grateful for all that we have, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We turn the time over to Jim for a few minutes. We do have a new member of the Planning Commission. We'll turn time over to you to welcome her.
Thanks, Curtis. We have a new member to our Planning Commission. She was appointed by the City Council last night. We had a big group here last night, and she was here listening to a lot of some of the comments. Her name is Kristen Walton. She was appointed last night by the City Council, and this evening is her first Planning Commission meeting. She's been a resident of Santa Clara for 27 years. Previously, she taught a little school up north at Indian Hills Middle School in Sandy, Utah. I happen to live in that area. I have 3 children attend that middle school as my kids were growing up. So I'll turn a moment over to Kristen if she'd like to say anything else about herself before we get started. Thank you.
I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be part of the community and to have this experience. I'm interested in the way the changes are happening in our city and decided to get involved. So that's why I'm here. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. We're excited to have you.
Welcome, Kristen. Sorry I'm not there tonight. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other items that need to be discussed that aren't on the agenda today?
That's the only one this evening.
Okay, well, with that being said, we will continue on in the agenda to our public hearing in 4A to consider a proposed general plan amendment application for property at the intersection of Pioneer Parkway and future extension of Red Mountain Drive. And that's the Silverado. We've had a numerous amount of discussions with that, so hopefully we're familiar, at least the majority of us, and we'll turn the time over to you, Jim, to present this.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and go through the project. First of all, the item is a public hearing on tonight's PC agenda. Can you all hear me? I'll try to project because I know we've had some issues with that. We're still trying to work out some kinks. It is a public hearing on tonight's Planning Commission agenda. This item was noticed to adjacent property owners and signs were put up. We have a project narrative sign that gives the description, as well as a public hearing banner. And then we put a QR code up the week before this meeting, a week ago today, allowing you to access the city website if you wanted to see the plan or the project report. I'm going to move forward. Julian Stemmer is here with Silverado LLC. Again, they're requesting a general plan amendment. Specifically, they're proposing a general plan amendment from Main Street Commercial and Open Space to the mixed-use residential for lots 1 and 2. And those are these areas on the map. So this is lot 1 here. This is proposed. This is lot 2 here. And then the second part of this is and Main Street Commercial, from Main Street Commercial and Open Space to just Main Street Commercial for lot 3. That's what's being proposed. So here you see a concept plan that's been proposed, that's been submitted. First of all, there was recently a commercial subdivision plat which has been recorded on this property. That wasn't the case last fall. So this property has now been subdivided into 4 lots. Silverado LLC is looking to move forward with future development of lots 1, 2, and 3, as you see on this plan. Lot 4 has been sold to IHC. IHC will come in under a separate application. They would like to put an Instacare there. So that previously was going to be a pickleball facility and a chicken and pickle sports bar and grill. Ship has sailed, so to speak, and now the Instacare is looking to come in. They have purchased this property. I wanted to make that clear. So as far as the way this is laying out, the future access to the property would be provided via Pioneer Parkway, which you see here, and then this extension of Red Mountain Drive. So that's something the applicant's team would have to work on to get that put in place if the project does move forward. Now, some of these items, as well as a future traffic signal, which would be required when the study warrants that signal, that would have to be put in at that time. That's something that would be discussed at the next step for a rezoning of this property and project plan if the general plan amendment is approved. So that would be a separate process with a separate public hearing. City staff and legal counsel have determined that a general plan amendment is required for the subject properties prior to pursuing a revised rezoning and project plan application. And I'm going to bring the general plan map up and explain that. If you can see this, and I will explain the locations for you. So this is the Harmon Center right here where it says MSC. This is Pioneer Parkway. This is Red Mountain Drive where it terminates at Pioneer Parkway. And then this line you see is the future extension of Red Mountain Drive going north and towards the Black Desert community, as well as the proposed Silverado project and potentially a future IHC facility. So this area right here that you see is green and an open space. And then we have some open space and floodplain here across the property. So Jared Bates, who's a project engineer with Rosenberg, happens to be here tonight. If there's any question on that, there's been some work done to the Lomar that allows for development to occur over that Tuacahn Wash area. But really it's a cleanup because we just have a little bit of open space here and then the wash. At a future date, when IHC comes, you can see there's a good amount of the property in open space. And so that they would have to propose a general plan amendment to change that from open space to the Main Street Commercial to allow for them to do an Instacare facility. So I just wanted to make that clear and show you all the general plan. We have sent out notices to property owners within 300 feet of the property. We also posted the property. I talked about the signs. Prior to the meeting, we didn't receive any emails or calls or responses. However, the Planning Commission and residents will recall that residents and property owners in the area came out to the last set of public hearings last fall on the property. And then it also went to the City Council for a couple of decisions to be made. And since then, the project has sat, and now we're looking at some slight revisions. Our general plan states the following. So right now, as you can see, we have 2 land use designations on the property in this area. And so the description for the MSC, the Main Street Commercial, will remain on lot 3. And I'm going to go back to lot 3. Lot 3 is the commercial. You see these commercial buildings here and another one here. So this designation would stay for lot 3. It states predominantly commercial uses on the ground level, including uses such as stores, restaurants, and offices with residences and or office on the 2nd and 3rd floor. Now, the open space description states the following: includes permanent natural open space as well as limited passive recreation such as golf courses and trails. The open space designation is applied to sensitive lands. So a minimal amount of open space is included on the subject properties as per the general plan land use map. City staff intends to clean up the land use map, and then these areas would be removed with the general plan amendment. The description for the proposed mixed-use residential, which would be placed on lots 1 and 2, states the following: the mix of uses is mostly residential in the form of townhomes, multi-unit buildings, but also might include small lot single-family homes. MUR may also include small retail stores, coffee shops, and offices at intersections with collector streets. Second floor residences or offices are encouraged. Now, we have a policy in this mixed-use section of our general plan, which is 3.4.2. And this policy states that all mixed-use development are accompanied by attractive landscaping, pushing the buildings to the street or right-of-way, pedestrian-oriented streetscape, and street trees. Section 4.6 of our general plan includes the Pioneer Parkway Retail Core. So this area is specific. And it states the Pioneer Parkway Retail Core is ideal for future mixed-use retail development. It is located adjacent to 2 major streets near a large park and school and firehouse and part of the city's proposed trail network. Public input from residents strongly supported creating future retail centers. This includes stores that form a continuous shopping street connected by wide shaded sidewalks with benches, decorative paving, plazas for gathering, and convenient on-street parking. In addition, when Santa Clara North, this area is developed, a significant customer base will live within walking distance. So one thing I need to mention here is this is a change to the plan. You see an outdoor plaza or gathering space between these 2 proposed commercial buildings, and that allows pedestrians to enjoy the area, creates walkability, and allows people to select whether they want to be outside or indoors. And then they're also proposing a stairwell connection to the Harmons, allowing for residents that live here to walk over to Harmons or the commercial shopping center to shopping. And then we also have a reciprocal access here that will allow for car and vehicular movement to and from this site as well as the Harmons Center as the property becomes developed. So I wanted to mention that to you. I am going to go just to some renderings that I would like you to see. Some of you may have seen this already previously, but these are concepts or renderings of the apartment community that the developer has put together with his architect. This is the amenity area, the pool and clubhouse area of the apartment community. These are the townhome units, which will include toy storage or garage. You see the large doors. It will be a toy storage type unit, but there'll be a dwelling unit up above. So technically it's a townhome / storage, a toy storage unit, because they will record a subdivision plat to sell those off. And then we get into, there's one more, and then we get into some of the retail renderings adjacent to Pioneer Parkway. You can see some of the idea, the materials, the open idea with glass. So those are just some of the concepts that they've shared with us, which would be explored more at a later date if they move forward with a rezone and project plan. This is just conceptual in nature at this point in time. So let's just pull that plan back up. All right. So here is that concept plan. And so we do have some other objectives to support the Pioneer Parkway retail. One objective states ensure the flow of traffic in a major transportation corridor while providing significant retail and employment opportunities in a pedestrian-oriented center. And then policy 4.10 in support states in the Pioneer Parkway retail core, the city encourages the creation of quality pedestrian-oriented center with a mix of commercial, business, and residential uses. And then the last item is section 6 of the general plan, which talks about economic development. It states attract new businesses and retail to Santa Clara to broaden and increase the sales tax base and provide increased local employment. And then there's one policy that states the city supports development that proposes mixed use land uses to help diversify the city's income and maintain services. This is a public hearing as per Utah Code, section 1098404 for a general plan amendment. And so we will have a public hearing here in a few minutes. We have met state statute for the requirements to have the public hearing. Our city staff recommendation is as follows. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the submitted general plan amendment to determine if the application is complete. If the application is determined to be complete, city staff would recommend that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation to the City Council for their review and consideration of the general plan amendment application, subject to the following. I have conditions, actually they're findings, subject to the following findings. And so we have 5 findings in your report. In the case of a general plan amendment, that's correct, right, Matt? Typically, they're findings rather than conditions in this case.
There could be both.
Yeah,
But in
yeah.
this case, they're findings.
They're findings.
Yeah.
And so that's all I have at this point. Curtis, Chair Whitehead, that's all I have at this moment. I'm going to turn the time back over to you. And I know the applicant's here. We can see if he has anything he'd like to discuss with you.
Perfect. Mr. Stemmer, if you'd like to come up and talk about anything that,
Thanks, Jim. You really kind of already mentioned everything. As most of the people that are here know, we were out here in the fall last year for the rezone. Now the process is split that we have to do the general plan amendment before we do the rezone. We were turned down last year with our plan from a few city council members. We just didn't really have the support. The main reason for that was the pickleball center and the traffic that could come with that potentially. So we took our time to find the right buyer that could add to the community and bring in amenity, and at the same time work with city staff, city council to come up with a few revisions next to removing the pickleball center, which is the plaza, to just have like some sort of community area where people can come and eat at the restaurants, but at lunch, someone else that maybe doesn't want to eat out can still meet up. And this is like a public gathering place, have some interconnectivity between Harmons and this project, especially for residents that live here, that they can just walk to Harmons. That's something that we're working on with Harmons right now. Other than that, I don't really have that much to ask. We've been really trying to work in conjunction with everybody. And we feel very strongly that this could be a great asset to the community. And if there's any questions, I'm here.
any questions before we open the public hearing? Thank you. And just to make sure I can explain this correctly to the gallery, those in the gallery today, the way this process works is this is a general plan amendment. If this gets approved, it'll go to the city, or it'll be recommended to the city council for approval, and then it'll still come back for a rezoning. Is that accurate?
Yeah, if the general plan amendment moves forward and is approved by the city council, because it's a legislative decision, it will be required to come back to the planning commission for a second public hearing for a property rezoning and project plan at a later date. So there will be other opportunities.
And that's when the elevations are a little more
Correct.
final. That's
Yeah, but they're gonna have to get into more detail and more specifics with the design and layout and building elevations at that
Perfect.
point.
Can I just add one thing, Curtis?
Yes, please.
This does get a little confusing on this property because it actually does have a PDR zoning designation already, which a portion of this development could be done under that designation. But that PDR designation doesn't currently have an approved project plan. And part of this proposed project is also commercial, which doesn't fit in that PDR designation. So just in case anybody looks up the current zoning and sees that it's PDR, that doesn't mean that they can go forward without coming back again, just like Jim has said. So it does need to come back for a zone change and a project plan approval.
And they would be asking for the PDC zone. So it's PDR currently, which allows the multifamily, which allows some of the densities that you see here. But to get the commercial component, they have to be rezoned to PDC, which allows for that mixed use that we've talked about. Yeah. Now, this is a vertical mixed use rather than a horizontal mixed use. You don't see a lot of horizontal mixed use unless you're in a very populated downtown area. To be honest with you, Salt Lake City has some, but a lot of the other communities throughout our state don't have enough population to support it. So generally, this is kind of what you see in our market, more of a more of a horizontal mixed use rather than a vertical building. So, and we get into height and everything else and underground parkings. Yeah.
Okay, with that, we'll open the public hearing today on this item. And we ask that you stand up, state your name and address, please, for the record. And we will have we ask that you keep your comments short and to the point. And if somebody's already talked about that, there's no reason to be redundant on the comments.
And we actually have a 3-minute timer, so they will be given 3 minutes. If they get to that point, the doorbell will ring and they need to be done. So,
Thank you. With that being said, we open the public hearing.
Hello, my name is Michael Quinto. I live on 3500 Robin Court, directly where the circular gathering center is. I just wanted to make sure that there will be no like loud outdoor music or anything like that being played during the day. You know, because there was an issue with down the street with the same restaurant on Rachel and Pioneer. They were doing this and it was bothering the residents across the street from there. So just wanted to make sure that nothing like that was going to happen in the future. And then the second question is, last year we did a traffic study on the street and there was talk that they were going to expand the street, maybe another lane. I don't know if that's still in the works or not, or that they felt that because no pickleball is going to be there, that it's no longer needed.
we can answer his questions after all the public comments, or do you want me to answer now?
For these ones, yeah,
Okay.
the sound one is a good idea, and then also the traffic.
Well,
studies.
that's
I know it's
something we
been
can
brought up.
ask the
Yeah, 'cause
applicant to
we get a lot of
address.
sound exactly from
Yeah.
the car wash, you know, the air blowing and stuff like that. It's very, very loud. And you know, we're just afraid of any loud ordinance noise, you know, coming from, you know, phase 3,
So-
you know, bleeding
so
over
just-
across the street to any of our
Right.
residential neighbors.
So the applicant, so everybody understands, as we went through those meetings last year, it was found that some revisions needed to be made to the general plan. And there were other areas here, you know, north of this, that general plan amendments didn't exactly occur. So we decided, the city attorney and I and others, that we need to be transparent and go back and change the general plan. And so that's the cleanup tonight, just to change the map, to make it more specific, to be transparent. It still has to go through the rezoning and project plan, which requires that transportation study. So that will be brought back in at the next stage.
Okay,
And so
great.
they had hired Aaron Baker with Horrocks to do a traffic study. And based on the size, scale, and impact and the uses, the traffic study will need to be done. And it will talk about any road widening, acceleration, deceleration lanes, right turn lanes, future warrants of the signal, all of that kind of stuff will be discussed at a later date.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we will have the applicant talk about the activities and the noise when this is finalized, so that'll clear that up. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else?
Do we have anybody else that would like to comment on this item at this time? Nothing online. We didn't get any emails on it. Doorbell.
Just Mark is online. I don't see anybody else. Do you?
Nope. No one
So
else
we
is
can-
on.
Okay, with that being said, we'll close the public hearing at this time. And we will continue on with our working agenda to item 5A, which is the recommendation to the city council to consider the proposal to the general plan amendment on which we just discussed. So we'll turn the time back over to you.
Yeah, you can do that, but we'll give Julian a chance to answer that question.
Okay.
And then you guys can discuss it before. motion.
Great questions. So we don't have any intent of having any loud music played out on the plaza. So I think that was question number one. And then with the traffic study that we had done last year with the pickleball center, we had planned a deceleration lane. As soon as we will go through the rezone and attach to a project plan, we'll revise that study with the updated plan, and then we'll present that as soon as we're back here.
And I don't know what that's going to say, but you have Aaron Baker, and he's a very good traffic engineer in the area.
Yeah, he does a great job. Yeah, does that answer your question? Okay.
Julian, real quick, do you have any plans or any commitments to any of those 3 commercial buildings at this place?
Not as of right now.
Not yet.
Our intent is to have about 1 to 3 tenants for each building, but we don't know who that's going to be. Is that what your question was?
It was, yeah. If there's
Okay.
any commitments.
We have a few that we're talking to, but nothing that is final at this stage. Yeah, maybe when we're back, we'll have a little bit more insight.
That would be nice, and that changes all the time.
That just
Because I
changes.
reach out to these users to come to our city, and one
Yeah.
week they're good, and the next week they're gone. You just
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
So,
We'll keep you
Yeah.
updated as soon as we get closer,
Thank you.
of course.
Commission discussion. Mark, we haven't forgot about you on Zoom.
You're good. I don't have anything there. Julian answered my question with the sound. The sound was going to be my concern because we've heard that from the neighborhood across the street, and I appreciate that position.
So just to go over again, Jim,
yes,
the current zoning, the PDR allows for what is being conceptualized and proposed for lots 1 and 2, which is,
yeah, they
Residential.
would have to, under the PDR, because they're showing townhomes with toy storage, and they're showing apartments. But in the PDR zone, the base density is 8 units per acre, but you can ask for a density bonus of up to 12. This is in the range of 10 to 10.5 units per acre. So this is something that could be allowed through the process in the PDR, but the commercial component is not allowed. But by rezoning to a PDC, it allows for all of these uses because it becomes more of a mixed use project. And as we discussed previously, the PDC, if you do a true mixed use and you add the residential units, the PDC does not require a density bonus like the PDR does. Lena Mathis, Councilwoman Lena Mathis asked Matt and I to research that last year. We researched it pretty good and made sure that was the case. So the PDR requires the bonus, but a PDC does not require a bonus to get up to 12 units. They're at 10 to 10.5. So they're not asking for the max. They're kind of in between.
and the different parcels
Mhm,
being done mixed, you kind of
mhm,
using all 3 parcels to comply with the mixed use.
mhm.
That's,
And that's fine. That's another thing we've discussed. There's a possibility we could have a development agreement of some sort when we go through the rezoning and the phasing plan. We've talked about that, Matt, but we're not there yet because this is just the general plan amendment. That's the next step in the process. It's just a cleanup to allow them to do what they're proposing on the site.
Mark, Kristen, any comments, questions?
County. Mr. Stemmer? Step up, got a question. Is your intent to develop these all at once or in phases?
It's a good question that I don't really have the answer to right now.
Okay,
We want to do them all at once if we can, but that all depends on the pre-selling. We're starting to put the whole marketing plan together. And it all depends on how the pre-selling will go. The apartments are going to be long-term owned by the ownership group, but the townhomes, toy garages are gonna be, as of right now, it's planned to be a for sale product. And there is some thought also of maybe owning those and renting those out. There has been conversation, but as of right now, we more likely will sell them.
Okay,
Yeah.
They're individually priced.
okay, thank you.
I had a question. Could you explain the bonus density thing again? When you were answering Commissioner
Yeah.
Harris's question about
Yeah.
the density between PDR and PDC?
So the PDR zone is planned development residential. If you zone to that, there's a base density of 8 units per acre. So you can design at up to 8 units per acre if the site plan design and layout is acceptable. If you want a density bonus, you have to provide more information, more amenities, more open space, a higher architecture, better materials, things of that nature to get that density bonus. And then that determination is made by the planning commission and council if the project is eligible for the density bonus. That decision is made and then they make that decision on their final vote. In this case, they're not asking for a density bonus because they're asking to rezone the property after the general plan amendment. The PDC zone, because it's encouraging more of a mixed use, allows a density of 12 units, just right out the door, up to 12 units. There's no density bonus required because we've got different uses, retail, office, commercial, and some residential. So that's the difference.
Great. I like the proposal. I think we've heard a lot of transitional areas recently in conversation. I think this does a good job at putting it far enough back that, we've got this stuff along Pioneer Parkway, we've got the commercial, and this kind of builds that barrier, and it's not a pickleball court that is I just think this is a good going from commercial to the mixed use residential or I guess would be Main Street residential. But yeah, I like, so can you point on the map how much of open space? Because it's just a little section in the right-hand corner, kind of that along.
Oh, there's quite a bit of open space, actually.
I mean, the mix that we're losing alongside Red Mountain.
Oh,
That we're
yeah, there's not a whole lot. It's this area right here. See the green?
But can you take kind of your cursor and show how much of that up, if you go up to the next map?
I don't know what the acre.
You don't know how close, okay,
Yeah,
I just
so
wondered.
basically that swath is coming right up into.
It's pretty thin though,
Right
isn't
up
it?
into, somewhere in here.
Okay, that's,
Says it's
thin.
40.
And then Tuacahn Wash, a portion through here. But as you know, the FEMA floodplain has been changed there.
Yeah.
Jared is here, Bates with Rosenberg. He's made some of those adjustments for this area. You can see kind of, some of the underlining area. That's actually where some utilities are. But really, it's just this small portion. Now, this lot has a bit more that runs through here, right? And then you've got some of the wash. So there's a lot more open space over here than there is on this side, but we need to be clear and consistent and clean these things up. That's what our attempt is here this evening.
I think that Jim's answer to that question kind of reveals one of the limitations of the general plan, right? Because, the lines on that general plan map is really all we have to go on. And it's pretty tough to look at that map and say it's exactly this many acres or whatever, as opposed to zoning, where zoning, we very much try to, each parcel, each property has a zoning designation generally. And so we can do it with that level of precision. So it goes back to our discussion, we were having previous to the meeting about what is the nature of the general plan. It's general, and so to say we're losing, so many acres of open space, it's just tough to be that precise because the plan itself is not that precise.
Well, one of the things with this plan too, is you can see all these areas, you see the legend here around the townhomes. That's open space. I mean, you've got some areas around the apartments, and then you have all this frontage adjacent to Red Mountain and Pioneer Parkway that will be open as well. So there's a good amount of open space, and we'll get into that more at site plan review project plan and rezoning is when we get into that detail at the next step.
thank you.
Chair Whitehead.
Go ahead.
So I went down and walked this over the weekend, last weekend, and I walked down into the marsh area and I walked up where basically the trail connects over behind. They're actually improving the amount of open space. If you look at this overall, they're actually increasing it on this side of the road. Where the open space is going to be most impacted is on the opposite side with the Intermountain Healthcare Facility. But here again, even the IHC, if they set it back and shape it properly, they can do a buffer zone across the next to that Red Mountain, and we'd still have more open space than we've got in the plan as it is now.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
No.
Well, we can entertain a motion if there is one.
I can make a motion. I
Okay.
recommend to the city council that we approve the general plan amendment application subject to the following conditions as listed 1 through 5 by staff.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Chair Hendrickson and a second by Mark Weston. All of those in favor, say aye. Aye. It passes with unanimous consent at this time. Anything else we need to do on that item? We'll continue on in the working schedule to,
Our general business.
oh yeah, general business.
I think it's item A2.
A2, yeah. I turned my paper over and then lost where I was at.
Yeah, because it went over.
Okay, we will turn time back over to Jim to, you presenting this one also?
I am. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the site plan for this proposal so everyone can see it that is in attendance. So this item is a public meeting on tonight's Planning Commission agenda. This is different than a public hearing. This is staff making a presentation, the applicant presenting, and then the council, Planning Commission discussing the item prior to making a motion or a recommendation to the city council. In the case of a site plan review as well as a subdivision review, these are not legislative items that require a public hearing, such as a rezoning of property, a general plan amendment, or a code amendment. So this item is a public meeting only. The applicants are Justin Anderson and Stephen Beasley. They're requesting site plan approval for a mixed-use office residential building at 3098 Santa Clara Drive. The proposed mixed-use building is a two-story structure that's approximately 9,939 square feet. I'm going to start with the site plan. We'll show the elevations here in a moment, and you should have those in front of you as well on your monitors. This includes 2 levels of office and retail space, as well as 4 two-story townhome apartment units, which range in size from 1,382 square feet to 1,424 square feet. Each unit also includes a 2-car garage, which is calculated into the overall building square footage. The subject property is just under ½ an acre in size. Now, the property is located within a historic district mixed-use zone. The proposed use, the mixed-use office and multifamily residential, is a permitted use in the zoning district. This item was reviewed by the Heritage Commission on June 15th of 2023. The Heritage Commission recommended that the Planning Commission consider approval for the proposed building, subject to the Heritage Commission reviewing final building materials as discussed during their meeting. And so you do have the Heritage Commission meeting minutes in your packet. Now, since this meeting, the applicant has submitted an option which includes a brick color that's tan to better match the Merck building across the street. Previously, it was a grayish white brick, but they've gone with a tan, and I'll show you that in a moment. They've also included a fenced courtyard area. This information will be shared with the Heritage Commission after the site plans are reviewed by the Planning Commission and City Council. Now, Chapter 1774, our historic district mixed-use zone, requires a review of the site plan layout, building design and materials, parking, landscaping, lighting, project signage, as well as other necessary items as needed for a commercial project. So I'm going to go through those items, and these are the items in your staff report on page 2. And I'll start with the site plan layout, which you see in front of you. The building has been placed with a 20-foot setback from the front property line, which is allowed in this zoning district. As you can see, the ingress and egress will be provided via Santa Clara Drive along the western portion of the site, which is right here, with public parking to the rear of the building. So this parking, these 12 parking spaces that are required by city code, by our parking ordinance, for the office space, the ground floor office space. We've got ground floor and second floor office space, which is just under 3,000 square feet, requires 12 parking spaces. So that's 1 per 250 square feet or 4 per 1,000. They've got 12 parking spaces here, 9 by 18, as well as 1 ADA space to meet city requirements for parking. So they've done that. They do have 2 car garages for each unit. Now, two parking spaces are required for each unit, but city code requires 1 covered and 1 uncovered. In this case, they are providing a 2-car garage, so 2 covered spaces, which is better than the minimum city code requirement. They're doing that. You can see the walkways that are being provided in this area from the parking. So if I were to park here, I can catch this walkway and access to the front of the building. So they're providing that walkway. And there's also one at the back of the building adjacent to the parking spaces themselves. Now I'm going to go to the building elevations here and talk about the building and some of the materials. I like the perspective elevations better because it really gets, it's a better view in my opinion. And so the proposed building elevations include hardy board, both vertical and horizontal siding, large stone on the business front facade, brick veneer, cultured fieldstone stucco, limited wood siding, and a standing seam metal roof. The proposed colors include white hardy board siding, white stucco, cream colored stone, tan brick, and dark brown wood siding and metal roofing. This is a nice architectural style, and we feel that it fits into our historic district area. We've gone through the standards, and the Heritage Commission felt that this was a nice design for this building based on its location and its vicinity adjacent to the MERC. Now, the Planning Commission may recall that it's been 6 or 9 months ago, we did a site plan approval for the Swoon building, April and Brian Hickman, which would be located right next door to the east of this. So the Swoon building is there. And we have a single family to the west that's in place with a fence. So if you look at the perspectives, this view right here would be your south elevation, and this is what you would see standing in front of the building off of Santa Clara Drive. I wanted to say Pioneer. This right perspective would be what you would see if you were standing along the eastern property line or on the Swoon property. The left perspective or drawing would be what you would see from the property owner on the other side of the fence, the single family home from the west. Again, another front perspective. And then the rear. Now, this one, I need to go back to the elevation so you can see the straight rear. So this is the rear that you would see, or the north elevation if you were standing from the parking lot. Okay. So these dimensions, these are based off of their north arrow, but my north arrow is, this is the south elevation. This is the north elevation. This is the west elevation. This is the east elevation that you would see from Swoon. Okay. And then some of the areas that we talked about right up in here, the stone. So this is the larger block. This stone is the change through here, which is the tan color rather than the gray and cream. They've changed that there, and they've changed that adjacent to the entries of the townhome apartment units. We've talked about the required parking. They meet the code requirements and actually have 2 covered parking spaces per unit, which is nice. I want to go back to the site plan, which includes the landscaping that they're showing for the project. The applicant will be required to comply with our water efficient landscaping and conservation standards. They do show some trees and some landscaping areas. And the other thing that's nice is this private patio area for people that future residents. There'll be an outdoor area here that they can enjoy, sit outside, have a drink or a barbecue. That's quite nice. And then the landscaping here to buffer, and then adjacent to Santa Clara Drive, there's some nice landscaping. Now, the large tree you see here is one of our sycamores on Santa Clara Drive. They've talked to our Parks and Recreation Department and Director, and this will remain in place. And that's why the sidewalk is like it is, kind of going around it, but making it walkable with a radius there rather than just having 90-degree angles. I think the layout and design is quite nice. Another thing, so we will work with them to make sure that they're compliant with our standards. That includes individual drips to plants and trees, as well as other areas. So we will work with them on that. Outdoor lighting, our code talks about outdoor lighting. If they want to have any indirect or light source or an outdoor pole, it cannot exceed 16 feet in height. All outdoor lighting is required to be shielded and directed downward to avoid any light spill off the site to adjacent properties. I don't perceive, and we can ask the applicant or designer, that they would need light poles here. I think there'll be wall packs on the building. A dumpster enclosure is required. They're doing a nice enclosure, which includes a block wall with a metal gate for durability. So when the truck comes, it doesn't bang that up. We've all seen those gates that have been smashed. Metal gate takes care of that. So that's another thing. Project signage, we do have a sign code, a specific code for the historic district. It's chapter 17.45 in your code. They will have to go to the Historic District Commission to review their signs for approval at a later date once they've been developed. And we have two other items that are brought up within chapter section 1774.030 of City Code. And this is directly related to our historic district mixed use. So within that section of code, it indicates that a two-family dwelling such as a duplex, twin home, or townhome are permitted use. This section of code also allows for the Planning Commission to determine other permitted uses with input from the Heritage Commission. The Heritage Commission has reviewed it and city staff has reviewed it, and we're comfortable with the 4 residential apartments as proposed in the project. And so that's that flexibility that zone allows us to allow for a few more dwelling units as are being proposed. Also, the proposed mixed-use office building has been designed to fit in with historic structures in the vicinity, such as the Santa Clara Merc and Swoon. Chapter 17.7, again, section 1774.040 of City Code indicates, and I'll go to the building itself. I want you to see the height and the elevation here. So indicates that the building height shall be an average height of adjacent units on the same block unless a greater height is approved by the Planning Commission upon recommendation from the Heritage Commission. Generally, height has been limited to approximately 25 feet in the historic district. However, there are several structures that exceed this height in the historic district. The applicant is proposing a building height of 29 feet to the top of the parapet along the front elevation. So that's this area right here. So this parapet. So you get that false front, which is similar to the Merc across the street. That section is the section that's 29 feet. You can see it drops back down after that. It's a nice building front for that office space. And then the residential component has 2 different roof pitches, a 412 and a 912 pitch, to create that residential character that fits into the historic district. And they're proposing that at 2780. So that is a little bit higher than the 28 feet. City staff and the Heritage Commission that reviewed it are comfortable as the building with the building design, as it's been designed to blend in with the historic district. We're in favor of that as well. So public notices are not required for a site plan. The Planning Commission agenda has been posted at multiple locations as per city code. We've not received any emails or calls from the residents specifically on this proposal. We meet all state code requirements as far as Utah Code Section 52.4202 for requirements of the site plan. Based on this, the city staff recommendation is as follows. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission forward a positive recommendation for site plan approval to the City Council for the 3098 Santa Clara mixed-use building, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. And there are 10 conditions. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Chair Whitehead. That's my presentation on this item. The applicant is here along with the project architect or designer, so I think they're both available to answer any questions you have or pick up on things I may have missed. That's what I have at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the applicant or project manager have anything to add to Mr. McNulty's presentation?
I am Ben Rogers, Principal at Desert Edge Architecture, and this is Justin Anderson. The one thing that I would add is along Santa Clara Boulevard with the sycamore tree, we have also added some benches to encourage.
I knew it. I wanted to say that one too.
Yeah.
I like that. The outdoor furniture and benches.
To encourage pedestrians as they're walking up and down the street and enjoying the sycamores. The sycamore was also another effort that we made to maintain and preserve. And with a great effort to tie the architecture into historic cues of this time period.
Thank you.
And I think Jim thoroughly explained the project, so I don't have anything else to add to that.
Okay, commission members, while they're up here, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have one. Hey, Ben, in relative height in front of that building to the sycamore tree that's to the east of it, the sycamore tree is actually taller, isn't it?
I didn't quite hear that, Mark.
Is the sycamore tree taller than the building, that tree to the east?
I'm pretty positive that it is.
Yeah.
I figured it was based on the conversation we had with Swoon. So that's awesome.
Has there been discussion on if these 4 apartments are going to be vacation rentals or?
Yes.
That
was part of the 10
Oh, well, okay.
staff recommendations.
That is
It was
right.
long-term rental.
That is right. Yep, I did read that. That's the only question I have.
No, tidy building.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We've spoken to the applicant, Justin Anderson, and he's indicated they would like to have people sign leases for 12 months or longer, and there could be an opportunity for a live work. You could work in the office space and live in one of the apartments. So that will be made available for employees potentially.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Discussion commission,
I like it.
pretty
I
clean.
like it. It's nice.
It basically checks all the boxes. Do we have to formally note the height, or is the height kind of?
That's one of the conditions.
We'll just notice the conditions. Recommend with the conditions of 10.
We had all that chit chat about the height restrictions, but
Yeah.
it kind of is worded like it.
And I know, Jim, that the Heritage Commission had made mention that they wanted a final approval on the building materials. Is that something that as we motion to move this to the city council, does that need to be noted in our motion?
I don't think it needs to because it's clear in the record of the Heritage Commission minutes. And I'm working with the owner and the architect, Steve Beasley, who I've been working with, another architect at the firm who's out of town. And so is it Ben? Ben's here this evening in his place. And once they get to the point where they can have some samples made of the large block as well as the brick, we're going to bring that back to them. They liked option number 2, which included the tan brick rather than the gray brick. And then that limestone type of look, which seems pretty nice. You know, I mean, they like what they're seeing is what I'm hearing. So.
Good. Okay, if there's no other items of discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I can, do you want to, you look like you were ready.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we recommend approval of the site plan for the building at 3098 Santa Clara Drive as it is designed and shown us here with the 10 staff recommendations noted as well.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark Weston and a second by Shelley Harris. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. We will continue on to item 5A3, recommendation to the city council to consider the final plat approval for the subdivision. I think that's Lugano. Is that how you say that?
It is. And so I may have to, let me just see if I have a staff report. If not, I'm just gonna go for it. So, and then you'll say you should do that more often. I just want to be organized. Anyways, all right. So again, this is a public meeting on tonight's planning commission agenda. The applicant is Jason Lindsay and his engineer Jared Bates is here this evening along with. Okay, I had a feeling you weren't Jason because I remember seeing Jason. So thank you for being here. They're asking for final plat approval of the Lugano subdivision. You can see the plat before you. It includes a total of 5 lots. The zoning is RA, which requires a minimum lot size of ½ an acre. These lots are exceed that. The smallest lot is 0.61 acres and the largest lot is 1.25 acres. The density is under 1 unit per acre. So these are large lots. Again, all lots meet the area width and yard regulations per our code. And so that's been looked at. The owner intends to build a single family home on one of the lots with other lots being available for purchase. As you can see, there's 2 points of ingress and egress to the site. To the north will be access off of Vineyard Drive. And then to the southwest is off of Riverwood Lane, which turns into Riverwood Circle. So there's 2 points of access here. I just want to go through some of the items that need to be addressed with the final plat. So we do have a public street here. All required, public streets are required in Santa Clara City. We don't do private streets. And the public street is dedicated to the city once a subdivision plat is recorded. The public street for this subdivision includes a 56-foot wide cross section. This includes a park strip as per the final plat. So as you'll recall, we had some open space area, the common areas that you see on the plat. And on the west side of Lugano was an open area to be maintained. You can see Lugano Lane and then it turns and goes 90 degrees to Riverwood Circle. That's an open space common area to be maintained by the homeowners association. And so that will include a landscape buffer where street trees will go. And then on the other side of the street, they're going to have a park strip. So it'll be what you see a lot up north where you have curb and gutter, park strip, and sidewalk. They've decided they wanted street trees on the interior of this subdivision on either side of the roadway. And so our parks director has looked at that and they've recommended 3 varieties of street trees. The Chinese pistache, which is a medium to large tree, the live oak, which is a medium to large tree, and the crepe myrtle, which is a small to medium sized tree. As far as building setbacks and height, that they're required to meet city code for the building setbacks, and the height is limited to 35 feet. So that's the height of a building that's allowed in our residential zones. We talked about the open space areas briefly. You see one adjacent to lot 5 off of Vineyard, which is right here. There's an open space area. And then the second one is the one we talked about that runs parallel to Lugano and Riverwood Circle. Those will be owned and maintained by the homeowners association. And they've added notes to the final plat to address that item. Culinary water, the applicants are required to obtain a will serve letter from the Washington County Water Conservancy District, as all applicants are. Secondary water available. It's my understanding that they have or will connect to the secondary system for outdoor water use. And then dust control. We have to be mindful of health, safety, and welfare of adjacent residents. So we want a dust control plan prior to the final plat. Again, notices aren't required, but we have posted the planning commission agenda in multiple locations. As far as reviewing departments, building department has taken a look. A geotechnical report will be required for each residential building prior to building permit issuance. Parks and Rec did not have comments. Actually, they did, so that's wrong. I put their comments up here under the street trees. Fire department, no. Tower department, public utility easements are required. Those need to be shown on the final plat, and they show them here on the preliminary plat. That PUE runs 10 foot back at the back of the property line along the frontage of each lot. So you see all along lot 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for property frontage. And in the case of lot 1, both the front and side property line, as well as lot 5 on both Vineyard and Lugano. Those are in place. Public Works, again, those PUDs have to be in place. All streets are public, must be dedicated and included with the final plat, and a Mylar with signature blocks is required. That's signed by everybody before plat can report. Our city staff recommendation is as follows. City staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider recommending final plat approval for the Lugano subdivision to the city council, subject to the following conditions, and we've listed 10 conditions for your consideration. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Chair White.
Thank you. Does the applicant's representation have any comments on that? Thank you. Jim, a question I had,
Yeah.
maybe you talked about it and I missed it, but and lot, let me get back there. Lot, I think it was 5.
Mhm,
Excuse me, lot 1.
mhm.
So that'll back up to Riverwood. Riverwood doesn't continue down there yet. It's a
It
dirt road,
currently
right?
doesn't. Yeah, it terminates there and then it would come into here, or it goes east into a cul-de-sac, west into a cul-de-sac
Right.
west of the property. But Riverwood does not extend. There's some issues with property and ownership there, and I'm sure Matt can talk about that. Matt, you and I have talked about the extension and the property ownership there. We don't know when or if that's going to extend for future development. It could be a situation where someone's kids eventually decide to, extend the road and subdivide, but right now it's city. So that's kind of where it's at.
So in the meanwhile, though, there will be a wall along, what would the setback be? Because most likely they'll be putting a wall on lot 1 on that west
Yeah, if they
side.
decide to, it depends on where they place the home. If they place the home on lot 1 adjacent to the circle, you've got your front yard setback, which is 25 feet. And then you've got 2 front yards because it's a corner lot. You're going to have 1 side yard of 10 feet and a rear yard of 10 feet. Our rear yard setback is 10 feet. So if they place it in such a way to where the rear yard is parallel to that property line, then it would be 10 feet.
And is there an option to place that entrance off of Riverwood Lane? Could they do that? Because obviously the road's.
Well,
not
the
gonna be
road would
done.
have to be extended.
It would
We'd have
have
to
to.
have a full public improvement there to let them access off of
Okay, so
Riverwood Lane.
there's not an
No.
option for that as long as
Not
it's
at this
not.
time. They could access off of the portion of Riverwood that's not a circle, or coming down 90 degrees off the circle. So they could access off of 2 locations where the public road improvements are. That's a good question.
Thank you.
That's a great question, but I'll tell you right now, I'll bet you there's nothing on that land for quite a while.
There won't be anything on that land for quite a while.
Oh, right.
So basically, there's probably a trust, and the kids will decide at some point later on.
Any other questions or comments or discussion items? Mark, you good?
I'm good. It's a great subdivision. The price has scared the crap out of me, but it's a great subdivision.
Okay, well, we'll entertain a motion at this time.
I can take a shot. I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council approval of the final plat for the Lugano subdivision, property located directly south of Vineyard Drive and east of Riverwood Lane, subject to the 10 conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second that.
Great, we have a motion by Shelley and a second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously at this time. Thank you, guys. Continuing on with our working agenda. Number 6, do we have any discussion items?
Not this evening.
Okay, not this evening. Other than, as far as calendar items, we will not have a 27th meeting.
Yes, that is correct. We will not, our meeting for the 27th of July, 2 weeks from tonight, has been canceled. And then our next meeting will be on August 10th. And so we'll have meetings on both August 10th and August 24th, back to twice a month.
Okay, great. Everyone have opportunity to look over the minutes? Anything that needs to be changed?
The only thing I don't remember, but it had Mark making a motion. Did Mark, as the chair, make the motion last week?
Oh,
It was
that's
probably I made the motion.
I think it was Mark. I think it was
It was
Mark
Mark
Weston,
Weston and Mark.
not Mark. If it had Mark Henderson, that's correct.
I believe it said Mark Hendrickson.
Which item was it, Shelley?
We do
Um,
sound a lot alike.
Yeah.
I think that was the only thing I caught and I can't remember where it was. I read it.
It was near the
I'm gonna try to pull it up right here.
commissioner moved to forward a recommendation. It was near the bottom, page 10, in
Page
the
10.
bold.
Yeah, page 10, Commissioner Hendrickson moved to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council.
I think that was Commissioner Wilson.
It was
Henderson.
Weston. That was Weston.
I'm sorry, Weston. I'm sorry. Marv Wilson was in the office last week. He's back from back from his mission. So I've
Is
got
he,
a Marv.
he's home from his mission?
He is. He came and talked to us a week or so ago. So we've got Mark Hendrickson, Mark Weston, and Marv Wilson. So I should know better, but I get my own kids' names
And
wrong.
at one
So
point, they were all on the planning commission.
they were, yes,
I guess, so I moved to approve subject to that
subject to
one.
that change. And we'll make sure that's fixed.
Great catch on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes by Shelley and a second by Chair Hendrickson. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye. Great. With that, we will adjourn this meeting until August 10th. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis, for handling things tonight. Thank you, Jim and Selena, for everything. Appreciate you. And Kristen, just glad to have you. I'm excited to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Good job. Thank you, everyone.
One more question.
Good job, Curtis.